For context, I'm a 22-year-old female and this story takes place back in 2018. During this period, I was working the late shift at a local coffee shop whilst I attended classes during the day. Even though I was usually exhausted after my shift, I'd always take a shower and then spend time catching up on social media. This one particular night, I was scrolling on my Instagram when I noticed one guy had liked over 100 of my photos. I didn't recognise his name, so I clicked on his profile, but it was set to private, so I couldn't see his bio or his pictures. Honestly though, I didn't find it too weird, because it's Instagram. We join up to get likes and interact with other people, hence the name, social media. The following day, I got home a little later than usual and did my routine of shower and then Instagram. I was surprised to see that I had nearly 400 notifications, all from the same guy that had liked my pictures the night before. I have to admit, this seemed a little excessive, as some of the photos were from 2012, so I had to have been scrolling for hours to get through them all. He'd also followed my profile. I sent him a follow request back out of sheer curiosity. Anyway, I was tired, so I called it a night and went to bed. It was around 2:30 in the morning when my phone pinged, waking me up. It was a notification from Instagram. Message received. It was from the guy. He'd accept my follow, so I was finally able to see his profile. It was empty. No pictures, no bio, and even worse, I was the only account he was following. I went into my inbox to check his message. It said, "Are you awake?" It was 2:30 AM. I was tired and I had class at 9 AM, so I just ignored it. My alarm went off at 7:30, but I was too tired and for the first time decided to miss class that day and went back to sleep. I got up around 9, went for a shower and had some breakfast before sitting down to do some work at my laptop. I received another message. "Hello?" it said. Then I remembered Instagram tells the person when you've read their message, so he must have known I'd seen his first one and ignored him. So I replied, "Hey." He apologised for messaging me at that late hour. He said he'd been watching movies all night and didn't realise the time. He started to get a little flirty. More creepy than flirty. He asked if I wanted to hang out. I lied and told him I was currently working, and his reply sent a shiver down my spine. "No you're not," he said. "You're in your living room, sitting at your desk." I froze for a moment. I went to my front window and looked out. It was a clear day. People were walking on the street, but nobody seemed to be watching me. I felt a little paranoid, but at the same time, I thought it was just someone messing with me, and it could have just been a lucky guess. I thought the guy was too creepy, so I immediately unfollowed his profile. Over the next few days, I started receiving messages asking what happened and why I was ignoring him, so I blocked him too. A couple of days later, I got home after my shift at the coffee house and found an envelope at the foot of my door. I opened it, and it was a photograph of me leaving work a few days prior. I called the police and they came out to my house. I told them about the creepy guy in the photo, but he'd technically not broken any laws, and unless I had any proof that it was this mysterious, creepy guy from Instagram, there was pretty much nothing they could do. The officer gave me his card and told me to call him if I received any more pictures. I made the decision to unblock him, and I asked him if it was him that had sent the picture. He claimed he had no idea what I was talking about, but ended the sentence with a wink emoji. I knew it was him, and I was terrified. I told him I was going to call the police, and he responded with, "You already did. In fact, you're still holding their card." I looked down. He was right. I was still holding the officer's card. How did he know? I rushed over to the window, but again, I couldn't see anybody watching, and from the angle I was standing, nobody from the outside would be able to see what was in my hand. That's when I noticed the built-in camera on my laptop. My heart was in my mouth. I slowly walked over to my desk. Surely he couldn't see me. I sent him another message. "Are you watching me right now?" I received an immediate reply, "Yes." I sat at my desk, directly in front of my laptop, and I stuck up my middle finger. I messaged him, "If you can see me, what am I doing?" Suddenly, A voice came through my speakers. "You're giving me the finger." I quickly shut my laptop and almost fell from my chair. I called the officer, who returned to my house within minutes. I told him what had just happened and gave him my laptop. He took it away, and I'm not sure what the technical term is, but they tracked the guy's IP to multiple countries from Canada to Norway and even the UK. He was clearly a professional hacker. I got rid of my laptop and bought a new one, and I didn't hear anything else from this guy until 4 weeks ago, when I received a message on Instagram saying, "Hello again." My story takes place a couple of years ago, and it was the most harrowing experience of my life. Something I'll never forget. I'd been single at this point for about 2 years after a 6-year relationship. I'd enjoyed having some personal space, but, if I'm honest, I'm more of a two-person kind of guy. I was missing those cosy nights curled up on the sofa with a girl, especially now that we were in the fall season. Anyway, I've been talking to a girl on Facebook named Jessica for a couple of months now. It might seem weird to say this because we'd never actually met, but I was starting to develop feelings for her. I'd mentioned meeting up a couple of times, but she always said that she wanted to get to know me first. That also included a phone conversation. She wanted to keep it strictly on Facebook chat. As I mentioned earlier, we'd been chatting for a few months, and I made the decision that we should either meet or I'd need some time to think about where this was actually going. She was extremely hesitant to meet and even got a bit agitated, but to my surprise, she agreed. We decided to meet Friday night at 10 PM. I checked the address on Google Maps, and it was only a 30-minute drive from my house, which worked for me. Friday came, and if I'm being honest, I was really excited. After talking to this girl for a couple of months, I was finally going to get to meet her. I called for an Uber, and we made the drive in 25 minutes. He turned down a long, dimly lit back alley populated with abandoned houses and condemned buildings. There was literally 2 streetlights on the entire street. The driver asked if I wanted him to hang about, but I told him thanks and I'd be fine, so I got out and he left. I messaged Jessica and told her I was waiting and that I may have taken her address down wrong. She confirmed it was right and that her house was hard to find, so she was sending her uncle to pick me up. Big red flag. About 10 minutes after, a Ford Ranger truck pulled up 20 yards behind me. Nobody got out and I was struggling to see due to the truck's headlights. I walked over to the passenger side window. It rolled down, revealing an excessively obese man, late 40s, in a sweat-stained white vest. His eyes looked huge behind his oversized spectacles. I asked if it was Jessica's uncle, and he just stared at me with a blank expression before saying, "Get in the truck." I told him I'd changed my mind and I turned around and began walking away. I heard the truck door open and close and footsteps behind me. I turned around to find the man rushing towards me holding a knife. I made a run for it. I turned down a narrow alleyway. It was a dead end and I was trapped. I could hear his truck approaching, so I quickly dived behind some old trash cans. I heard his truck turn into the alley and stop 20 or 30 yards away. He got out. I could see through a small gap that he was looking for me whilst clutching the blade. There was no way out. I started shaking in fear. Then I noticed a ladder hanging down from the condemned building, but it was over 7 foot from the ground. I had no choice. My adrenaline kicked in and I made a run for it. I ran across the alley and made a leap for it. I grabbed onto the ladder. The obese man was rushing towards me. I managed to pull myself up, but not before he took a swipe at me, cutting my leg. I looked down at him, and he was just standing there with this blank, emotionless stare. Then he calmly walked back to his truck, climbed in, and slowly reversed back out of the alley. I called the police, and gave them what I remembered of the license plate. But like in most stories, the guy was never caught, and Jessica's profile and phone number was removed. This happened to me a couple of years ago. I just moved into a new house in a quiet suburban neighbourhood. It was one of those perfect, picturesque neighbourhoods where everybody seemed to know each other. Everybody kept up to mowing the lawns and looking after the gardens. There was even a basketball stand on the sidewalk for the kids who lived in the street. To me, it was perfect. My family gave me a hand on moving day as I had a lot of stuff to move. As I was taking one of the boxes out of the truck, I noticed my next door neighbour sitting in a rocking chair on his front porch watching me. He just looked like a regular guy, t-shirt and jeans, late 50s, slicked back hair. I didn't want to be rude, so I gave him a wave and shouted, "Hey, I'm Rebecca," but to my surprise, he just got up and went back inside his house. Later that night, after I finished dinner and washed up, I decided to go on Facebook for a bit before bed. I had a new friend request. Although I didn't know the guy, he looked friendly, so I accepted. Within minutes I received a message asking how I was, and what am I up to? Just the usual kind of questions. We conversed for a bit before going to bed. About 2 in the morning, I woke up to a new message asking if I liked horror stories. I told him no, and that I was in bed trying to sleep because I'd had a busy day moving. He replied, "I know, but you had help, sir. It couldn't have been that hard." I froze before asking, "How did you know that?" He said that nobody moves without help, so he just assumed. I guess that makes sense. The next day, I was unpacking some boxes and my phone was blowing up. Message after message. It was him again. He wanted to know what I was doing. This was getting creepy, so I lied and told him that I was watching a movie with my boyfriend. I didn't get a reply for about an hour, and the next message made me feel nauseous. It was a picture of me in my kitchen alone, unpacking boxes with the text, "Liar." I looked over to the window where the photo had to have been taken. I was freaking out, so I called the police. Like most stories you've probably heard, the police came and I made a report, but without anything else, they had nothing to go on. For all they knew, it was just a friend playing a prank. I told them I don't have any friends that would do this, but there was nothing much more they could do. They even suggested I have some home security cameras installed. I started getting bombarded with Facebook messages from the guy saying, "Don't ignore me or else." At this point I was terrified and just blocked his account. That night I was in bed and I woke to a camera flash. I immediately leaped out of bed to see my next door neighbour outside my window taking a photo. Bear in mind, I'm on the first floor, so I had to have climbed up. He quickly leaped off. I ran over the window to see him rushing back over to his house. I quickly called the police and told them what happened. This time, they could do something. They went next door to speak to my neighbour. After securing a warrant, they went through his computer to find he was the one with the fake Facebook profile sending me messages. What's more disturbing is the fact that they checked his phone and found hundreds of photos of me taken both day and night. I took out a restraining order against him, and because I'd only lived in the house a few weeks, I decided to move. Sometimes those perfect neighbourhoods aren't always so perfect.